welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? My name is Michelle, your co-host, and we have Healthy Boundaries Guy back again for another week. Woohoo! Healthy Boundaries Guy, welcome back.
Welcome.
So today we have another person who wrote in and asked about healthy boundaries. And this one I'm going to summarize. They gave several examples and the gist of it. And this one I relate to. Oh, hang on. We got to set an intention. Healthy Boundaries Guy, would you like to set the intention for today?
You know, I did earlier, so why don't you do this one?
Wait, what do you mean you did earlier?
This morning.
No. Did you tell me your intention this morning?
No, it's for me.
Okay. So am I just hearing that I should stop asking you if you would like to set an intention for the podcast?
I feel like I did one, now it's your turn.
You did one for you. All right. My intention is actually, for me personally, my intention is going to be to reflect as accurately as possible, because the question that came in for today definitely is in my wheelhouse and definitely my lived experience. So my intention maybe is to be as objective as I can possibly be without diving back into the old patterns that I've worked through. So I think maybe as a blanket intention, our intention can be to be the observer and respond and catch ourselves in reaction, maybe. I don't know. Is that silly?
No, it sounds great.
Okay, so this question is about feeling guilty when you set boundaries, even though you know it's the right thing. When you see people for who they are, like, how do you accept that when it's painful for you? I'm summarizing. And then also recognizing that, like, you're really only missed because, you know, things that you used to do that maybe weren't the healthiest for you personally are now being noticed that you don't do them anymore because you're in this new version of setting the boundary. So that's kind of the gist of these sort of scenarios within this one. And I gotta say, some of my first healthy boundaries were definitely in this feeling guilty for setting a boundary, because I think some of the hardest boundaries that I had to set right out of the gate were people that I thought were my friends. That when I really looked at it, I realized they were my friends when I didn't have any boundaries, when they could take advantage, or when they could expect more of me, even at my own demise, even if they knew it. Which, that was the kicker for me. I was like, oh, you knew.
Yeah.
You knew. You told me you knew. And here we are. And now that I'm setting the boundary, you're admitting that you knew, and you're okay with that. And that was mind-boggling to me.
And they were okay the whole time they were using
you.
The
whole time they were using me.
Yeah.
And that was, and here's the thing. They get to be who they are. But damn if that one didn't hurt.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one in particular that I won't go into too much detail about. I know you're aware.
I remember that one.
It was so hard for me because I thought this person was my friend. I thought this person cared. I thought we had similar goals. I thought we showed up in the world similarly. And turns out I was just wrong. And the whole time I was trying to set these boundaries, and I say trying because I wasn't doing very well at it, because I had guilt. I was like, but I've done all these things before. Why would I suddenly stop? That's going to feel crappy for them. But then I think when the line was drawn and I found out they admitted that they knew the whole time, that was where I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine son.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't healthy because it was coming from spite and anger. So I really had to drop in and, like, process my emotions before I could really set a boundary with clarity, for sure, because it was really messy for me.
Yeah. No, it's been a long time since I was there. So that, you know, even to the point I have a hard time even, you know how you remember things and you still feel it?
Yeah.
I don't even have that
You don't
anymore.
feel it anymore.
Not of like the situations. Like, I can't even remember, like, where you're remembering that situation and the emotions are there.
I know.
I don't even remember the emotions around the people, you know.
They're dead to you.
Well, I don't, like, necessarily wish them harm.
No, I didn't mean it like that, but I just mean in that they don't have any power over you anymore. They legit, like, you're
where
good.
I'm like, you know, they are who they are, and it is, you know, it is what it is. And when you start getting the boundaries cleaner and more clarity with them, better people come in.
100% without a doubt. Yes.
So you just start, all of a sudden you meet new people and you're like, oh, well, you're way better. Like,
Yeah.
You
would
start
never do that to somebody.
Yeah.
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 You actually show up in the world differently.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you do just start to get different people. And so, over time you're like, well, I wouldn't go back. You know what I mean? It's that, but the beginning part, which sounds like where this is like that first couple.
Oh, it's so
rough.
hard.
Yeah.
I literally just recently had another one where I was like, oh my God, I did it again.
Yeah.
I really thought, and for me, I will say, back to the 2 episodes ago, it's clarity. I didn't have clarity with this person.
Yep.
I was, we were just verbally talking about things and dreaming up ideas of things that would be amazing. And all that was great in person when we were talking. And then when it came to getting clarity in writing, it all went to pot. And I was like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay, that's not, and it was big, but there wasn't actual clarity. So
well, and a lot of it is that one in particular. They were saying one thing,
yeah,
and the moment it came down to putting it in writing, it was completely different.
Which was such a gut shot for me, and it was so hard, but
it
not
was,
as hard as the first one.
But you were having conversation. I mean, that's what I mean. It's not like you weren't going for clarity. That person was just lying.
Well, that's fair.
It just was what it was.
That's fair. But that stuff just kills me.
Yeah.
So I get, and to circle it to the guilt part, the guilt of setting the boundary. I will say, the first one that I talked about, where it was like I thought we were friends, and and then it turned out that they knew all along. That one, I still had the guilt. I had a hard time severing that friendship because I just didn't want to believe that was really true, even though I knew it was. So I had guilt with that, and it was hard. But I will say it had to be a sword for that one. It had to be a hard line. This is it. We're done. I mean, I think I left a door open, and it was slammed shut by that party. So it was like, okay, that's good. That was actually probably the best choice anyway. But for this one, I didn't have the guilt around, because I was just like, oh, well, I get what's happening. I've done this. Been there, done that. I understand what's happening. I feel good about my choices. I'm proud of who I am and how I show up in the world. I don't do it all right all the time, but at least I'm a little bit more aware with my boundaries now. And I was proud of myself for myself, which is, I didn't have that with the first one. I was just in too much pain. That first one, I was like, it was like a stab in the back, and it was so hard for me. So the guilt and and just the the everything feeling just like it was shoved in my face and feeling awful was terrible.
Yeah.
This one, I was in a space of, I see what's happening, which once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Can't unsee it.
But I also know that now we can move forward for the best and highest good, and that just means we're not moving forward together.
Yeah.
And that feels good.
Yeah.
So as far as like, I think when I was summarizing, I was saying how it was like, seeing people for who they really are, which is like sometimes, when you're in need of a boundary, the reason you realize you need the boundary is because you understand that, oh, you're actually being taken advantage of, or you're being used for something, or like it's out of balance, like there's a lot of giving but not a lot of receiving, or that sort of a thing. And that acceptance of that is, it takes practice. It's a weird thing to say, but it takes practice. And it is also like, as someone who wants to believe the world is good, sometimes it's just not.
Yeah, I don't believe the world.
I know you don't. I do.
I know you do. I know that there's not good people, but I just think most people are going to, do what's best for them.
They're going to do what's best for them, not for you.
Right.
Yeah, fair.
And regardless of the downstream consequences. And that, not to say that's good or bad.
Yeah.
For them or you, I mean, it's just, I just think that's where people are.
I will say the more I show up in awareness and objectivity, the easier it is for me to not build attachments to something that is a falsehood. Mm-hmm. Like to understand that, especially when I'm meeting new people, to go in with awareness and open-mindedness, but also not blanket trust. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying that you should go in wary and not trusting people. I'm just saying I tend to go way too far on the other side of that and just be like, well, of course, they would never do that.
Yeah.
And that's not often true.
I tend to think like, I'm gonna be open, honest, and transparent.
Yeah.
And if you're not, okay.
Right. But it changes how often I want to spend time with you or how I'm going to show up with you, or certainly if I'm going to go into business with you or not, or form a deep friendship with you.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the hard part is I don't expect them to think like me.
Right.
Yeah. Because a lot of times you run into scenarios, you just go, I would just never do that. How could they do it? You can't even rationalize it because that's not where you're coming from.
Right.
And that almost makes it harder because, of course, people can do that. Mm-hmm. And so there's that hard line of, how cynical do you want to be?
I know, sometimes I do struggle with that.
Where, and often not, I'm a pretty cynical person. And I still sit here and think, maybe I'm not cynical enough. Because you run into people and you go, wow, really? But you meet good people too. So it's, it is.
And
what
I want to
is.
be really clear about this, because even some of the things I was saying, I was like, I'm not coming from a righteous place and I am not coming from a judgmental place. I get that I'm a piece of shit too.
Yeah.
And I know you get that you're also a piece of shit too.
Yeah.
Like we talk about that all
Daily.
the time. It's like on the regular, like we're both like, oh man, what the hell why? But I just think setting healthy boundaries when it's not something you've done, the guilt of, I think it's maybe, guilt is there for sure, but I think for me, if I'm being honest, there was also fear of, I think it brought up fear of like not being liked anymore, which it shouldn't even be an attachment at that point. But I think there was this fear of, well, what if they don't like me? What if they go tell everyone else what an asshole I am? What if? And the reality is like, here's the thing. I'm me, and some people would define me as an asshole.
Yeah.
I'm me, and other people would go to battle against the people who call me an asshole because they know they don't identify with me in that way. And I think both can be true.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like very many people. So if they don't like me, what's the chances?
Right?
Like, what's the chances it was going to be like, boy, I really like that person and they didn't like me?
Right.
Well, I don't think I just go, I don't have enough time to be a good friend to the friends I have.
Yeah. And
there's just a clarity there for me where I just go, do I really need to devote time to your shitty ass? No, but really, I just I got friends that are good people that I haven't seen in 2 months.
Yeah, me too.
And you want me to do what for you? No. Yeah. I'm not gonna.
I do love that about you. And when you say it like that too, like I'm thinking about this person who asked this question too, but I'm also putting it through my filter.
Yeah.
Like when you say, I have more friends than I can be a good friend to, there is like the good-hearted me that goes, oh, I haven't been a good friend to, I'm that way too.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, I should be severing some shit here. Like, so that I can
There's
show
some
up.
people getting phone calls this evening.
No, I won't be doing that. But certainly, I don't know. It's hard because it's like I enjoy making connections. I enjoy meeting new people. I tend to like a lot of people. However, I'm learning over time that I perhaps like people too quickly. I'm using that word loosely, but let them in too quickly or decide that they're where they're at on the spectrum of what resonates with me or not too quickly. And then I end up, in my definition, feeling hurt or burned or whatever. And then, but it's like, but was I, or was I just not paying attention? Was I just living in my rose-colored glasses where I think the world is, or people are, kinder hearted than some of them are. And that's not a slam. It is just, because here's the thing, to somebody else, they might seem really kind-hearted, but in my vibration and in my world and in how I show up in the world, I just go, not really. It didn't feel good. I didn't like that very much, and I don't really want to do this again. I don't want to dance this dance with you.
I think that the first couple, and like I said, I don't have a lot of emotional attachment to it anymore. But I always thought, like, was it worse that I let it happen?
Oh, that's the worst.
Right. Though there's a point there where it's like,
that's the worst.
You know, is this bad because I let it happen,
100%.
or that they did it? I let them do it.
For me, it's worse that I let it happen. For
me too,
sure,
where
it kills
I just,
me. Where I'm just like, oh my god, I let them do this to me over and over and over again.
Is it
for
human
years.
nature for a person to take advantage of that situation?
100%.
And so I just go, well, of course they're going to.
Right. Well, and then I start, if I really get into like one of those days where I want to go inward and reflect, I'm like, well, how many times have I done that?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a bunch.
Yeah. It's a rough
Where
day.
it's like, damn, shit, it is a rough day.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think I need to go to the float tank for this one. It's going to take a while, and there's going to be some tears.
It turns out
and I'm going to hate
I'm a
myself
piece
for a
of
little
shit,
bit
too.
in there. And then I'm going to love myself back up again. But, yeah, I think, you know, if we're circling back to the guilt of setting healthy boundaries, you know, this is going to sound weird, but you might not be in enough pain to set the boundary yet then.
Or clarity.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
you know.
It's...
And I had a couple really tough ones where I had to decide, am I willing to walk away from this, or how much work am I willing to put into this? Like people that I wasn't sure I wanted to sever. And I you know, I'm just thinking of a couple different examples. And one, it was like, I'm willing to walk away if this doesn't change or shift or whatever, and that's ended up being what happened. And then the other one, I was like, I would like to work and try harder, and I chose that too. And I'm not mad about either one of them. I feel like I'm showing up differently, and you know, it's working.
Well, and this is where I like to talk about salting fields versus burning bridges.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a person can have aspects of that person that you don't like.
Right.
And you can decide, well, I'm just not dealing with that. Like,
Right.
You don't get to bring that to my door anymore.
Right.
And you can still have a relationship with that person. That, you know, you're changing the relationship, so they're going to have a reaction to it. And you should be clear when you communicate it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean just because that person or people, I don't know everything about this one, so, but it doesn't mean you have to just walk away.
No, not always. And
you could
not
say,
even
well,
often, I would say.
Yeah, I mean...
Sometimes that salting fields thing is magical.
Oh, yeah. Because you're being direct. You say, look, you know, it's not...
Yeah.
You know, we're not touching this one anymore.
Yeah, we're not talking
either
about
you're
that
okay
thing
with
or,
that
yeah.
or not. So, but again, that goes back to the communication. You know.
Yeah.
That it's, you know, here's where I'm at. I'm not, you know, not interested anymore. If it doesn't work for you, I understand. But
yeah.
This is, you know.
You said that, and I don't know why this brought this to mind, but I want to touch on it because with the guilt with healthy boundaries, I have this thing where I always feel like I want to explain, I want to give them a why because I feel like that will make them feel better. It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't even make me feel better. I think in my head it's going to make us both feel better, and really it just makes it more complicated. It makes it less clear. And honestly, my why is none of their business.
And it allows that person to then backpedal or, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like you're opening the door to a more conversation, which you're just trying to
100%
close.
are.
Yeah, did I say almost? I did.
Yeah. Because that's just what it is. Well, no, that's not what I was doing. And that's where, you know, we've had this conversation. The difference between malice or I can't remember even how you phrased it, dishonesty or...
Well, there's actual intentional malicious behavior, and then they just don't know any better.
And I go, what's the difference? The end result is the same.
Right, and it's not my job to rescue them or teach them.
Yeah.
Like, that is not on me.
Yeah.
That is not my job.
And
well,
so...
I mean, if I'm their coach, I suppose it is, but we're not talking about
job,
that right
not
now.
my job.
Well, and we're not, those people aren't people I'm coaching.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's different.
But I look at that as, if the end result is the same, what do I care where it came from?
Well, that was a big aha moment for me when you said it. Because you go, look, if two people are doing the same malicious things to you, malicious is a big word, but it's just easy for this.
Yeah.
And one is doing it intentionally and one isn't. How do you feel either way?
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I can justify this one in my head a little better, but myself, I feel shitty both ways. And
Right.
why would I accept that? Why would I open that door or keep it open?
And if the solution is salting fields versus burning bridges, what does it matter?
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, you could say if it's a truly malicious person, we probably shouldn't be with that person anyway.
Right.
But, it's step one to determine how that person's going to act.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is I don't give a lot of credence to, well, they didn't mean it. Well, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
I do. I really used to hang on that and be like,
Yeah.
they're not a bad person. They're not. But it's like, but they're showing up not great for me.
Right.
They're bad for me. And
Right.
that's it. And I think when I'm thinking about like just feeling guilty about setting healthy boundaries where I go, and this was just like one of those things that dropped into my brain. If you're feeling guilty about setting a healthy boundary because something is quote unquote harmful to you, it might be time to look at self-love.
Yeah.
And self-trust.
Back to the clarity.
And back to self-worth and those
Yeah.
kind of things. Because I definitely, that was one of my biggest struggles, is I was just like, well,
What if they don't like me?
right. And
Yeah.
it was that fear of being unlovable, that fear of being unseen, that fear of being abandoned, that fear of being, just like standing in a room alone going, I got nothing, which
Yeah.
was super never been true in my life. I've always had support
Right.
and people in my life, and some the balance of support and the balance of unhealthy was a little skewed, but it is amazing when you create those boundaries and the things that aren't meant for you fall away. You're not wrong when you say the new things that come in and fill it. I mean, it's been my experience that same way, where you're just like, oh my gosh, friendships can actually be like this. Business relationships can actually be like this.
Yeah.
Relationships and as a whole, or just like being in community together, can actually feel like supportive and beautiful, instead of like I need to guard myself and have my hackles up all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's refreshing, but there is a lot of work that goes into getting to that place.
Yeah. It's not, I think people think a lot of the boundaries are just going to be easy until they start going down the road and it goes, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that people don't realize, I certainly didn't, is how much those boundaries, like, they're not about the other person.
None of them are.
They're about me. It's
Every
all, I
one
have to
of them.
look at me, and I have to just like, it's like this, but I just have to like get naked with myself and be okay with it. I just have to be like totally transparent. What I mean by that is just totally transparent. I got to look at all the things. I got to make sure that like, am I being truthful about how I'm really showing up? Am I being truthful about what I've allowed? And like, because it's so easy to lie to yourself, and it's so easy to make excuses or explanations or find a scapegoat or,
Well, and so many people, well, we had one a long time ago that I thought was hilarious, but at the end of the day, every single boundary is on yourself.
Yeah.
It's how you convey it to others that people think is the boundary, but you need to get to yourself first.
Yes.
And there was one person who when we were going through the healthy boundaries at a summit, was like, well, turns out I'm really good at making demands.
Right.
Because so many people think, well, I'm just going to start telling people what to do because it's what I want.
Right. I get to stand in my power and tell them what I will and won't accept. It's like, but hang on.
Well, you can.
Sure.
It's not going to work well.
But that's not exactly what we're talking about when we're talking healthy boundaries. In fact, that's not at all what we're talking about when we're talking healthy boundaries.
The more clarity you get, the more, I mean, like watching you go through it.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, there was parts where I'm like, well, nobody does that to me anymore. Like where there was like, oh, you're going to enjoy this one.
And I didn't at
you
first.
didn't at first. But eventually you're like,
I'm there now.
All right.
Maybe not on all of them.
Not all of them, but
yeah.
there is a point where there's a little bit where I'm like, just once, come on, just, you know. But people just see that they're not going to be able to push you around.
Well, excuse me. I do surprise myself.
Yeah.
I surprise myself in the stuff that comes out of my mouth, whereas before I would have been like, sure, I'll go do that for you. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Or I'll just say like, no, you're capable. Go do that for yourself. Whereas before I would have been like, oh, you need a thing? Sure, I'll go do it. In fact, I'm on it before they even ask, is how I used to show up, which is annoying as fuck as I think about it. Right? Like, it's so bad. No, you didn't know me when I was that way. That was long before you. I might have had some of those tendencies left, but, but I mean, I'm just thinking about like, you know, these are people I've known for a really long time, and they asked me to do a thing, and I was like, no, you feel free to turn the tables and do that for me, because we're both in this same boat together here. Why am I the one going out in the rain to get all the shit? Like, no, that's not going to happen.
You can make your own coffee.
You can make your own coffee, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Little things that I just would say yes to. And they're simple little things, but here's the thing. When there's a lot of those simple little things and it's always you, you will deplete yourself. And you get to a point where either you get really clear with yourself and you understand and you just don't want to have life be that hard anymore, or you just realize that you are literally not, this is not sustainable. Like, you are so depleted that if you keep showing up in this way, and when you get to that point, the guilt kind of goes away, because you're like, well, now I'm in survival mode, damn it.
Yeah.
You know, which is a tough place to be in. But I think, you know, for me, guilt and shame are old patterns. And even that, like, take healthy boundaries aside, like, knowing that that's a pattern and a comfortable place for you to go, or a default place for you to go is maybe a better way to put that. Mm-hmm. Like, knowing that is, because that's another place where you can do some work, right? The onion, there's so many layers of the onion of healing and transformation and showing up authentically in the world and being willing to be formidable. I love that word that you use. Like, I just wish everyone could be formidable, because it is one of those words where you're just like, oh, yeah, that does feel good. Yeah. To be grounded in yourself and who you are, and to be willing to just shine, you know, all of that. And then if it repels people, that's okay. And if it draws people to you, that's also okay. And knowing that you have discernment to decide, and you get to choose it. Not always. Sometimes you don't get to choose it, but you get to choose what boundaries you're setting, and that's the thing.
You always get to choose that.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part, is you never get to choose the external.
Yeah.
Ever.
No. And
so many people try and, well, if they only did this, then my life would be different. Well, there's shitty people out there.
Yeah.
Are you gonna hold on to that ammo?
Right.
And let them shoot you every time they do something that bothers you? Or do you just go, it's, shitty people. Yeah. What do you do? Yeah. Go somewhere else.
Right.
And it's, I don't know. It's easier, I see a lot, you see a lot of people that they just gripping onto wanting to control everybody for everything. And that's tough.
That's so exhausting.
Yeah.
Says the girl who's done it. I mean, I said that in like a knowing, because I definitely, I feel like, I don't know, it's weird, because I feel like my kids amplified that, but they also they were my eye opener, like, holy fuck, I don't want to show up like this forever.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of my beginning of awareness of how much control I really truly needed to feel safe.
Yeah.
And then how that was such a big detriment to the people around me in my life. It was like, oh, holy crap, what am I doing? And those self-awareness moments, man, you catch yourself in those. And then it's, who do you lean into? Who do you call in for help? Because sometimes you need support. Sometimes you need guidance. Yeah. Sometimes you need, like, you are my definite lean into for healthy boundaries. Because I know you're going to call me on my shit. I know you're going to tell me, well, I mean, you did it again. You just did it. You just did it again. There it is. You see that?
I feel like we've had this conversation before.
And I love that, because, those old patterns, man, sometimes those ruts are deep.
Yeah.
And I can't get myself out of them. But I more and more finding people that I know can guide me out of them.
Do you find it, because I know you still talk about where you want to be kind.
Yeah, I do. I mean, my heart does always.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and here's my distinguishing factor. If I can't be kind to myself too, that's not my problem. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I have to also be kind to myself. And so what I realized is, and kind to other people at the expense of yourself, or unkind to yourself, is not kind to them either.
Right.
Because ultimately that's going to blow up. That shit doesn't go on forever. And so I just realized, like, okay, hang on. Like, maybe my definition of kind is wrong. Like, it's not healthy, because,
Well, do you owe it to everybody to be kind?
Well, no, but I also don't have to be like, I think I don't have to be malicious, I guess, right? Like,
Sure.
And I just think my definition of kind was, to protect people's feelings. And it's like, well, that is humanly impossible.
Right.
Humanly impossible. So I had this impossible expectation of myself to never hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I was still in my old trigger and trauma of feeling unlovable, not wanting to be abandoned, always needing to be like, somebody has to like me, right? Like, and that was just so not healthy. So like looking back, I can see it, and I wouldn't even like, I say I want to be kind, and it's like, what I don't want to be, because I do also like anger. I'm comfortable in anger, and when I'm in anger, sometimes I get spiteful, and spiteful is not really how I want to show up in the world. So while I understand that it might not feel kind to everybody in the room, I also don't want to show up actively spiteful or angry or like, do you know what I mean? And I think that's what I have to catch myself in to make sure.
When you get to the point of almost like it's dismissive.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care, whatever.
Right.
That's when you know you're at the point where you're at.
Well, you're not in a trigger.
Yeah, you're just like, well, do whatever you want. I don't care.
Right.
When I find myself there, I go, oh, okay. Well,
I know where I am.
I'm at clarity then.
Yeah.
Because I don't give a shit what you do.
100%.
And where it's not anger, it's not, you're not in a heightened emotional state. It's just like, yeah, I really don't care. Stay, leave.
Up to you.
It's just not with me. It's, whatever the boundary.
Yeah.
When I find myself in that just of, I really don't care, dismissive kind of thing, you go, yeah, I get it. You want to stay, don't stay,
Yeah.
That's where I kind of know, you're not just out of spite and anger, because those are my two favorites too.
They're so fun.
Oh, yeah.
But not externally. I mean, they're fun.
Well, even they're fun too. Let's not be on.
Not for me.
Every now and then you go, yeah, a little fun. I was an asshole, but that was fun.
I super have fun, like talking about it, joking about it, because it's how it helps me move my energy for sure.
I still have some fun.
I don't want to show up in the world in that way.
I mean, every now and then, it happens. But
even in this conversation, I have moments where I'm just like reflecting on how I used to show up in my boundaries, how I used to show up in my protection of self, and I just think, damn, you were just a jerk across the board. Like in the name of kindness, you were just a total dick. Like what the heck?
Well,
and that's the thing where it's just like, dang,
spite and passive aggressiveness.
Yeah,
I love the people that get all passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And I even find that fun is when they'll put out boundaries. Well, what they determine boundaries, which is basically telling you what to do.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they don't want to communicate it with you. They're going to be passive aggressive about it. Well, that's when I'm the asshole. I'm like, well, okay, I want to fuck with this person a little bit.
Yeah. Well, my favorite is when they set a boundary, but they don't want anyone else to know that they did it in an asshole way. And you're like, well, hang on.
Yeah.
Like, you think this is how this is going to work? Like, okay. I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like we got a little bit off tangent, but I also think that everything we talked about is definitely directly related to guilt, to seeing people for who they are and deciding how you want to show up around that. Ultimately, self-love, self-trust, those self-words, self-awareness, all those things. Why? Why are you showing up? Why are you not setting the boundary? Why are you setting the boundary? Again, clarity. And you have those things down, and it will change your world for sure.
Yeah.
And just know that all this stuff is not stuff you have to do alone. I don't even recommend doing it alone. I think if you're on the journey where, the thought of giving a healthy boundary terrifies you, find your team, find your community, find your people that can help you navigate that, because it's definitely uncomfortable. And if it's not uncomfortable, it's probably not really going to do a whole terrible lot if you're new to it. For you, it doesn't really get uncomfortable too terribly much anymore. I wouldn't say never. I've seen you in discomfort around boundaries still, but it's rarer. And the thing I don't know that I'll ever get there, because I don't know if I can show up in the world in this way, but like, you just don't get into the emotion. Like, I just have to feel it. I have to feel it all so I can move through it, so I can step into my neutral and be okay. But I have to feel it first.
I don't step into their emotion.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know. I think I better work on my empath boundaries or something. I don't know what it is. It's hard for me.
But that's what I mean is you get wrapped up in others
Yeah.
a lot with
Yeah.
that, where, you know, that's a long, hard life for me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just not, you know.
Yeah.
I get I'm not going to actively try and hurt people, but I'm also not going to worry about every single thing that is said or done to you and how that makes you feel.
Right.
That's exhausting.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're expecting from me, then you don't know me very well.
Right.
So, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know what you want me to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, it you know, I'll process mine, but I don't get wrapped up in the others.
Yeah.
If I'm coming at this from honesty and clarity and transparency and not out of spite, and you take that poorly,
That's
well,
not your
there's
problem.
nothing else I can do about that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is actually helping me. So thank you for the question for this,
Yeah.
because for me, I think discernment and I say this in my empath classes all the time, is this mine? But I don't think about it when I'm actively setting healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think that might be really helpful for me to navigate, like, which parts of this are actually mine and which parts are me feeling somebody else's stuff or even worrying about somebody else's stuff, because it's not mine to worry about.
Yeah.
And I need to remember that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Feels like a wrap. What do you think? All right. Thanks for joining us today. You can find us at JAIDE Wellness, JAIDEE Wellness.com, Michelle Albers, AALBERS.com, and then at Instagram and Facebook on both of those accounts as well. We look forward to talking to you again or seeing you, or we don't do any of those things. We talk and they listen.
Yeah.
But we look forward to it next week anyway. Bye. Be you every day.